When I walked up to the table, I was shocked to see my wife's jaw hit the floor. She looked ugly with her mouth hanging open. Douglas started to stand up, but I quickly raised my hand to tell him to stay seated. No, Douglas, stay where you are. As long as you're sitting, you're safe. But if you stand up, I'll have to sink my fangs into your throat, I warned. Please, just sit down. I don't want to make a scene. I'm sorry for disrupting your intimate moment. I could feel the tension in the air. Julia, I was so shocked to hear that you faked being sick just to avoid spending the weekend with me, also you could be with that awful Douglas. In my opinion, he's the absolute worst. It's hard to believe you picked him over our special spot where we first met, where I even proposed to you and we had so many great times. That place used to mean so much to me, but now it's lost its charm just like you did on our wedding day. You made vows that you obviously won't keep. I promise to never purposely hurt you or do anything like that. Hey, if there's anything that will make you stop loving me, I'm worried that it might have already happened. I'm really upset and my feelings for you are fading. It feels like a betrayal. Julia, you know me better than anyone else. You know that I approach things like a systems analyst. I analyze, find problems, and look for solutions. In this situation, it seems like you want to date other guys, like with Douglas. But I'm your husband and I can't let you date other men. It's not cool. Hey, there's a problem, but don't worry, I'll sort it out. You can date whoever you want, this friendship ain't worth much anyway. Julia told Douglas that I included him in our plan, but we are not done yet. I'll catch up with you later. I left in a rush, went outside, crossed Michigan Avenue, and headed to the Drake Hotel. Julia rushed out of the spa, looking around for me but couldn't spot me despite trying hard. After I beat her, she sighed and walked across the street. I was confused as I waved down a cab that was supposed to take her to our place. But I felt better knowing that I messed up her plans with Douglas and that she actually cared enough to come look for me. She would have been bummed to find out I wasn't there. I waited a bit longer to see what Douglas would do. He eventually got out of the car, hailed a cab, and drove off in the opposite direction. I decided to chill at the Drake Hotel for a few days while I figured out what to do with my life. So I walked in and managed to snag a room. You must be wondering how we ended up here, so let me break it down. I'm John Barton and my wife is Julia. After graduating from MIT, I landed a job as a software developer at Grace System Solutions in Chicago. Working for Greg Gray, the owner, was a dream. He was a great boss, fair and generous. Thanks to him, I was able to move up the career ladder quickly and find success in my role. Greg was the man. Greg first introduced me to Julia at the Christmas party, saying she was his goddaughter and his best friend's daughter. It was obvious he had planned for us to meet, and I couldn't help but thank him for it. The moment I laid eyes on Julia, it was love at first sight. She captivated me with her charm, humor, and all the qualities I look for in a partner. Nobody could deny the passion I felt for her. I was head over heels for her. Our connection was instant and unbreakable. We were always together, inseparable. It all started with a spa party that turned into our favorite spot. 3 months later, on a romantic Saturday at the spa, I popped the question without a second thought. She jumped into my arms and said yes. Our marriage was a dream come true, and our lives just kept getting better. We both had successful jobs and celebrated with dinners at our place. We tied the knot in our 10th year together, and everything was perfect until about 6. A few months back, I was starting to feel like the honeymoon phase was fading away, even though I knew it wouldn't last forever. I couldn't shake this feeling that something was off. I was sure nothing weird was going on, but the lack of romance was bugging me. So, I took matters into my own hands and started planning a secret trip for us. My buddy Adam, who used to be my roommate, worked in software with his dad Ben, who was a client of Greg's company. I timed our vacation to line up with. So, I went to Cleveland to meet up with Adam, Ben, and their wives Caroline and Gloria for dinner on Friday night. We had a quick business meeting on Saturday morning and then we were gonna hang out in Niagara Falls for a couple of days. I wanted to spice things up and have a romantic second honeymoon. Julia wasn't too sure about going, but I convinced her it was important. Hopefully, she'll end up loving it. Hey, so on Friday morning I woke up and saw that Julia wasn't in her bed. I searched for her and found her sleeping in the spare room. I asked her if she was awake and she told me she got sick last night and moved into the spare room so I wouldn't worry. She said she was really sick and needed to rest, so I called her office to let them know she wouldn't be in today. I left her to sleep and went to work. I called her at 10 a.m. I asked her how she was feeling and she said she was still feeling crappy. I then told her that I would have to go to Cleveland alone. When she didn't say anything, I just ended the conversation and called Adam to let him know about the change of plans. Adam suggested that we cancel the trip to Cleveland since Julia wouldn't be able to make it, and instead, both couples should come to Chicago to meet me on Friday evening. We could spend Saturday shopping along the Magnificent Mile. If Julia feels better, we could hang out. When my buddy invited me to grab dinner together on Saturday night, I was stoked. I told him I'd book a table for us at the Drake Hotel and we'd chow down at the restaurant across the street at 6 p.m. I quickly scrapped my flight, hotel room in Cleveland, and car rental in Niagara Falls. It sucked, but plans can always switch up. Around 3 o'clock in the Arvo, I phoned Julia to see how she was and see if she wanted to join us for dinner. Bummer though, I just got a busy signal. So, I was getting ready for a presentation for Adam and Ben by 5:30 p.m. I tried to reach out to her again, but got her voicemail. I left a message explaining our plans, then quickly headed out the door to meet Hartley. While we were at the table, having some cocktails before dinner, Adam's face suddenly changed. He came up to me and said, "John, I hate to be the bearer of bad news, but Julia just walked into the restaurant with another guy. She's sitting behind you on your left, against the wall." My heart sank. I slowly spun around in my chair to look at her, and there she was with none other than Doug Simon. Seeing them together made me mad and resentful, feelings that I knew would never go away. In short, he left my sister Barbara standing at the altar and then said he didn't want to marry her. He quickly married someone else and had a kid, even though I thought she would be better off without him. Barbara is still hurting from his betrayal, which is why I can't stand him. But let's focus on the present. I was shocked, to say the least. I tried to speak but all I could do was stutter. Everyone's sympathetic looks showed how surprised they were. Finally, I managed to speak up and said, "Well, this is unexpected, huh?" It was clear I couldn't keep hanging out with them acting like I didn't see what we all saw. So, I told them to carry on with their plans and suggested we meet for breakfast the next morning at 9:30. So, I was at the hotel cafe feeling pretty sure that things would start looking up soon. But, sorry to say, Julia and I can't make it to dinner tomorrow night. I'm really sorry and I hope you can forgive me. I mumbled out my apology and then gave a hug to some old friends before heading over to where my wife was sitting. Adam was tagging along, trying to reassure me that everything would be okay, but deep down I knew it wasn't gonna be. I gotta give him credit for being understanding though. We went back to the awkward conversation at the table and I found myself lost in my thoughts. So I was chilling in my room at the Drake Hotel, right? I had turned off my phone when I was checking in, but I figured it was time to turn it back on. Julia had left a few messages, but like any other person in my situation, I just deleted them without even listening to them. I straight up ignored her last voicemail and let the phone ring until it went to voicemail. I wasn't trying to hear what she had to say, you know. After I deleted the message, I turned my phone off again. Then, on Saturday morning, I met up with Adam and Ben to discuss our business connection. I told them that I was expecting some big things. So, things have been changing in my life and I wasn't sure what to expect. I told them not to sign the new deal that Greg signed. I asked for some time to deal with problems in my marriage and at work. You know Greg is close with Julia's dad and is her godfather. Maybe you'll have a better chance later on if you can wait. If not, we'll think about it again. Adam suggested something, and I understand your point, but I don't see a problem with you keeping in touch with Greg every month until my situation is more stable. What do you think? Hey, I told Adam we'll do whatever you ask. Greg and I are only teaming up because of you. If things change, we've got your back. Just tell us what needs to be done and we'll help out. I got emotional and hugged them both tight. Then the ladies walked in time for them to drag their husbands shopping. Caroline, Adam's wife, smirked and said, "Come on, darling, your credit card is ready." "Damn, it's freezing cold." Gloria, Ben's wife, said, "We need to warm up." "I hope Ben's card doesn't get fried from all the money we're gonna be withdrawing today. We'll be spending so much that it might just melt. It's not every day we get to shop on the Magnificent Mile." Despite feeling a bit down, I couldn't help but crack up at their jokes and appreciate how they were trying to cheer me up. I love them for that. After exchanging hugs, they left. I thought about heading to the office to get organized, but I was thinking about going, but then I remembered Greg was gonna be there on Saturday and Julia might think I was gonna show up too. So, I decided not to go and instead planned to get to the office early on Sunday to figure out my game plan. I spent Saturday afternoon chilling with a new book I bought. The next day, I got to the office, got some stuff done, and then bounced. I made a plan for Monday morning, and back at the hotel, I was looking at apartment listings in the Chicago Tribune. I couldn't just chill at the Drake forever. So I started making calls and setting up appointments for Tuesday morning. Once everything was set, I kicked back and watched some football. The next day, I met up with Roger, my lawyer for years, to talk about him repping me in the divorce. Roger was like, "Don't worry, John, I got you. It'll be a piece of cake to introduce you." He couldn't believe I was divorcing Julia, saying I loved her more than anyone he knew. But I told him, the key word here is loved. Past tense, man. Hey, I don't have feelings for her anymore, so if you don't want to be my lawyer, that's cool. Just don't be Julia's lawyer either. Roger was cool with that and said he didn't want to represent either of us. He told me to try and sort things out with Julia, but if that's not happening, I'll bring in Jacob, my lawyer who's from the East. Roger thought Jacob would be great for the job. He told me to try and make things right with Julia first before making a final decision. I thanked him for the advice but made it clear that I wouldn't be changing my mind. I couldn't make things right with Julia cause my feelings for her changed. Then I talked to Jacob, who said all the paperwork would be done by Tuesday and Julia would get served with the lawsuit on Wednesday. After that, I went to the bank and got a receipt for half of our savings, leaving the rest in our joint account for our day-to-day expenses until the divorce is official. Julia and I had a financial agreement where we each put in a set amount every month to cover our expenses. Our total expenses for running things were covered, plus we all chipped in for food and fun. As we bought furniture and gear, this fund we had grew big time cause we were always putting in more than we were spending. Even during the divorce mess, we didn't touch that fund for paying bills. On top of that, we each saved around $500 a month in our own accounts for trips and holidays. After the divorce, I'm taking out my half of the savings. All good. We had control over our own money and could do whatever we wanted with it. Our investment accounts were managed by different brokers and we didn't know how much money the other person had in their account. We made separate plans for our finances. The only info we shared was the monthly deposits into our checking and savings accounts. I took the money and opened new accounts at a different bank. I put $25,000 in my checking and $155,000 in my new savings account. I also handled other financial stuff. Okay, so basically, I sorted out the insurance stuff first, then I headed to the office to handle the situation. As soon as I saw Kelly, she gave me the heads up that Greg wanted to see me in his office right away. I was thinking, here we go. He called me in and told me to shut the door. After Julia's call, I was totally confused. I laid out the whole situation for him, and he asked me what my next move was. I confidently told him I was gonna file for divorce. When I asked for his opinion, he got all high and mighty, insisting that if I wanted to. Man, if I wanna keep my job, I gotta patch things up with my wife instead of going through with the divorce. I had to choose between fixing things with her or risking getting fired. So I gotta figure things out with Julia or I'm outta here. Greg, my buddy, acted all surprised and raised an eyebrow before saying, "Do you really think that how things are with Julia affects my worth to the company? Can't you see how hard I work and how dedicated I am? I follow all the company's rules and policies, man. I even recorded our conversation, Greg. So, John, listen up. You're a great worker, always doing your thing and following the rules. Greg even said you helped out with company policy, so I'm counting on you to stick to it. but Julia's like family to me, and if you two don't sort your issues out, I'll have to let you go. You get what I'm saying? Greg tried to make me feel the heat, but I wasn't gonna back down. All right, so I had to man up and face him. Even though I kept a straight face on the outside, deep down I was kind of pleased with how things were going. I put on a sad face and told Greg that he had to be the one to tell Julia that I was calling it quits on our marriage. He looked shocked and let down, but he eventually decided to give me the boot from my job. I asked him to have a security guard go with me to the office to grab my stuff. I had a feeling things might go south, so I had already snatched some things ahead of time. So, on Sunday, Greg and I had been working together for a long time, so I knew him pretty well. When I got to my old office, I only grabbed a few things to pack up in a small box I found in the pantry. As I was getting ready to leave, Greg noticed the photo of me and Julia on our wedding day. She looked amazing in her wedding dress, and I have to say, I didn't look too shabby in a tuxedo either. Tears started to form in my eyes as I picked up our photo and whispered, "I've always loved this frame." I carefully took the photo out of the frame and packed it away. Yeah, so I took that wedding photo out of the frame, chucked it in a box with my stuff, and then tossed it in the trash. When I was about to leave, Julia saw me and she looked shocked with tears running down her face. She totally knew what I was doing and the impact it would have. She quietly asked me, "Johnny, can we talk?" I stopped for a moment and told her, "There's nothing to talk about, Julia. You've already betrayed me, or you're about to. You broke both of the promises you made on our wedding day and you hurt me real bad. Hey, you really messed me up and did something that made me stop loving you. They say you can't fix a broken heart. What am I supposed to do now? Do you really think I can forgive you for betraying me? Do you know how much I hate Douglas for what he did to Bob, and yet you cheated on me with him? It's impossible to think our marriage can make it through this. No, Julia, there's nothing left to talk about." I quit my job and left Julia behind. I called Adam Hartley and told him Julia and I are getting divorced. I got fired from Grace System Solutions because of it. I told them I was working on a badass security system that would be better than anything they currently have. I just needed a few months to finish it up and asked if they would let me stay on a monthly basis until they got the new program. For the last 2 years, Greg hasn't let me do any programming, just making me deal with system maintenance and customer service problems instead. I've been putting in all my spare time to code, and I was almost done with the project. I was gonna hand it over to Greg once it was better than his current program. But now that I got fired, I can market it myself. Adam said he'd have to talk to his dad first, but he seemed pretty confident they'd give me a few months to finish up. They seemed impressed and ready to use it. After 4 days of getting into their business, I was able to ditch the hotel and move into a fancy apartment. The rent was steep, but I had enough cash to keep me afloat for a few months. I spent all my days writing and testing code for 10 to 12 hours straight, even though I knew the project was almost ready to launch. I just felt like I had to finish it before I could start living off of it. That's when Julia hit me up with divorce papers and kept trying to talk about it. I listened to all her voicemails, but I didn't hear anything worth talking about. In one message, she spilled the beans about Johnny. She said, "I have to admit, I might have considered being with Douglas if you hadn't stepped in. But I never actually did anything. I don't know what I was thinking, but I still love you. Can you give me a call?" She begged Johnny, "I still adore you and I don't want a divorce. Please call me." She kept on going, "Johnny, can we figure out a way to work through this and stay together? Hey Johnny, I really miss you and I'm tired of all this." I reached out to Jacob and told him to tell Julia's lawyer that I'll get a restraining order if she doesn't stop her behavior. Then Julia messaged me saying she loves me and just wants to make things right and be with me forever. I was shocked that she's okay with me getting a restraining order, but if that's what you think is best, I'll respect your decision. Hey, this will be the last message I send you. I love you more than anything, but I know the decision is up to you now. I'm sorry for causing you so much pain that you can't even talk to me. My love for you is strong, and when you're ready for help, I'll be there. Julia said sorry for not texting or calling me like she promised. The result wasn't what I hoped for, and it felt like the final straw in our marriage, even though we are not divorced yet. I was so bummed to find out what went down. I busted my ass for 3 tough weeks working on my programs, putting in extra hours every Friday after lunch. Then Jacob hit me up, saying we had a court date with Judge Janice Caldwell next Wednesday morning. He was freaking out, saying Judge Caldwell is a real tough cookie in divorce cases, dragging things out before granting a divorce, if she even grants one at all. We showed up at the courthouse and saw Julia and her. So we went into the courtroom and our case got looked at real quick. Once we sat down, the bailiff called for order and everyone stood up when Judge Caldwell walked in and took her seat. She welcomed us and then turned to me. The lawyer for the divorce case came up to me and asked if I wanted to drop the case and try to work things out with my spouse. I said no thanks, I wanted to go ahead with the divorce. Judge Caldwell didn't seem too happy about it at first, but she eventually went along with my decision. Then she turned to her. Julia asked Mrs. Barton if she thought getting a divorce was the right move, or if she wanted to try and work things out in their marriage. Julia quickly replied, "Your Honor, I don't want a divorce. I love my husband and I'm going to do everything I can to save our marriage." When the judge looked over the divorce papers and saw that the reason for the split was irreconcilable differences, it was clear that Mr. Barton's proposed settlement was fair and not malicious like many others. The judge then asked her, "Your Honor, I don't have any beef with you and I'm not trying to hurt her. I just want to settle things fairly. I gotta admit, I don't love her like I used to." When I said that, Julia started crying. The judge stepped in and said maybe with some help, we can work things out. So now we gotta go to 3 sessions of marriage counseling with a really good therapist. Okay, so basically, you get 1 session together and then 3 separate sessions each. Unless the consultant tells the court that the marriage is a lost cause, then the judge bangs the gavel and moves on to the next case. I was about to argue, but Jacob cut me off and said we should send John to the first session to see if he has a change of heart. If not, just tell the counselor you want a divorce and see what happens next. Sucks, but that's the deal. The chat went to shit. Julia was begging, apologizing, and begging me to give our marriage another shot and try to fix things. The therapist was really listening to me, but he didn't seem to understand why I wanted to end things with my wife. He asked me, "John, why don't you want to try to make things work with your wife?" I told Dr. Graham, "Let me tell you a story. Some might think it's a fairy tale, but it's not. I was at my office Christmas party when I saw this woman. Have you ever seen someone from across the room and just knew that they were the one for you? Well, that's exactly what happened to me. My boss introduced me to Julia, his goddaughter, and I instantly knew she was the one I wanted to be with forever. The sadness in her eyes disappeared, and a beautiful smile took its place, stealing my heart. Our connection was instant and intense, like we were meant to be together. After just 3 months, I asked her to marry me and our love story began. I thought we were perfect for each other, but then I realized that maybe perfection is just a myth. Even with this realization, I was still determined to keep going on this journey with Julia by my side. Mr. Graham, I fell for her instantly. It wasn't a slow build-up, it was like BAM. This instant connection should give you a peek into my mind, right? I mean, if love can happen in a split second, then it can also disappear just as quickly. Julia was seeing someone else, but I trust her when she says it wasn't serious. I think things would have gotten worse if I didn't step in. She completely betrayed our marriage by going on a date with another guy. It's a betrayal no matter how you spin it, and to make it worse, she chose Douglas, the scum of the earth and my archenemy. It wasn't just some random guy, she knew how much I hated Douglas and the whole story about him hurting my sister Barbara. But she still went ahead and cheated with him, and to add insult to injury, they were at the peak of their romance at some fancy spot. Where we first met, I got down on one knee and asked her to marry me. It was a place where we had a lot of good times together. I was looking forward to celebrating her first pregnancy and welcoming our first child. But then I saw her sitting with Douglas, his hand on her face as they raised their glasses for a toast and a smile on her face. That's when I realized that the love of my life had betrayed me to my worst enemy. My heart broke and the love I had for her started to disappear. As I walked towards their table, I felt empty inside. Hey, bro, when I left the restaurant, I realized that all the love I had for that girl who used to mean everything to me was gone. I just can't stay married to her, man. There's no love left, and I can't be in a marriage without love, you know what I mean. It might sound harsh, but it's the truth. I had to end things with her, even though Julia's crying got to me. I just didn't love her anymore. Julia, I'm sorry, but I don't want to hurt you. Do you get what I'm saying? It wouldn't be right for us to stay married if I don't love you. Dr. Graham said our session would end today, but I think we've talked about everything we needed to. I believe that with some one-on-one counseling, we can move forward and maybe even fix our relationship. I'll suggest to the judge that we keep having these sessions. After hearing all this, I was so mad that I decided I'm not going to keep going. Man, it's crazy to think this marriage has any shot at all with all these consultations. If you want to keep talking, just talk to Julia and leave me out of it. I got so pissed off, I yelled and stormed out of the office, annoyed that someone could be so damn forgetful. A few days later, the court sent me a letter setting up 3 separate consultations. I missed the first one and ended up in court, where Judge Caldwell found me in contempt and hit me with a $500 fine. She warned me that if I ditched the next consultation, I'd be screwed. I was locked up and straight up told her that I ain't going to any more meetings. And I stayed true to my word, didn't show up to the next one and got busted by a cop. It was a pretty nice scene though. Not every day a lawyer comes up to me trying to get me to come in for a meeting, but I said no. Then on the 3rd day, out of nowhere, Greg, my old boss, showed up for a quick 15-minute visit. He said he was sorry about what I was going through and admitted he didn't have my back when I needed it the most. Greg said he could help me out with my problem if I just let him. If you agree to go to counseling on your own, Judge Caldwell will let you out of jail. After that, we can meet up to talk about how to fix your issue. I just ask that you keep in mind the possibility of coming back to work for me in the future, but you don't have to promise anything. For the first time in a while, I felt hopeful. Greg has always been a good friend and treated me right, until the situation with Julia happened. Hey Rose, I told that dude I'd do what he asked and maybe even go back to work for Great System Solutions. The court set up my first solo session for the next day, and a cop took me home and waited while I got ready. I showered, shaved, and got dressed, then he came with me to the session and stuck around until it was over. The session was just a basic psych eval and a survey. I tried to be as helpful as I could. After it was done, Dr. Graham walked me out and gave me an update. Officer Mr. Young was cool and agreed to come to the next session in a week. He said I could go, but warned me that if I skipped the next meeting, I'd have to deal with Judge Caldwell again, which I definitely don't want. He made it clear how mad Judge Caldwell can get. So, I called up Greg and we decided to meet at my place the next day. We spent the whole morning talking about his stuff. Hey, so after we ate, we all sat back down to talk about my future at Great System Solutions. I told Greg that even though I've always valued our friendship, I gotta focus on what's best for me. I brought up the last time I got promoted and how he told me not to go into programming. You said my system maintenance and customer service skills are too important to waste on programming, but I'm thinking, hey Greg, I'm really into programming right now. I'm working on this super high-tech security program that's way ahead of anything out there, like 4 generations ahead. Trust me, this is a game-changing development that could totally revolutionize our country's security systems. With all the hacking going on in retail chains lately, my new program will make it impossible for hackers to get in. It's gonna be a game-changer, but I only have a few months to test it out on real company data. I'm confident this program will rock. Get ready, it's gonna be happening in like 3 to 4 months. I told Greg that I already talked to Adam about testing, and he agreed to give it a try. He's only doing it because we are friends. If my program works, he'll probably understand things better and leave you. Greg asked how I plan to deal with the non-compete clause in my contract. I said it's invalid because I didn't agree to it. Quit and wasn't actually fired for a valid reason. You let me go because I wouldn't deal with my personal stuff at work, so there's no problem with the non-compete clause. When I mentioned it, he laughed and said he could just make up issues at work if that's what I wanted. But then he said he hoped I'd come back to work with him. I laughed at his joke, which seemed to annoy him. Greg, I said calmly, I have our conversation recorded. You fired me and admitted it was not work-related. My dismissal was purely personal. Hey, John asked Greg why he felt the need to record the conversation due to disagreements with Julia. Greg said he recorded it because he knows about John's feelings for Julia and thought he might try to stop him from divorcing her. John said fair enough, and they kept talking. Greg mentioned he's got a new software that's gonna make him rich and is willing to share the wealth with John. He also said he's ready to come back to work for John full-time, despite some uncertainties. Hey there, just wanted to give you a heads up that I'll still be working with clients like usual, but I won't be dealing with system maintenance anymore. You'll need to hire a manager who will report to me directly since it's tied to the new program we're rolling out. Once you get the hang of the new software, I'm sure you'll be thrilled with the outcomes. I'm planning to dedicate around 40% of my time to developing the program in the future, even though I'll still be working full-time for you and getting paid for my current and upcoming projects. I'll keep full control of these programs, but I'm willing to give you the exclusive rights to promote and sell them for a set royalty fee that you'll pay me. Greg, I know this might sound a bit bold, but I believe that if you see the potential in my work, this agreement will benefit us both. Let's work together to achieve great things. I agree to the terms and will have my lawyer handle the details. Just a heads up, if the deal falls through, I'll still own the programs. Hey, if the agreement doesn't meet what I expected, I can just end it. I'll ask you to bump up the royalty percentage to make it worth my while. Greg said okay, but I couldn't make it to the last meeting because I got picked up by a cop and taken to court in cuffs. The officer gave me a smug look as he lectured me about the consequences of my actions. And when Judge Caldwell walked in, I saw her looking pissed off with steam coming out of her nose and fire in her eyes. It was pretty clear that she was pissed off. Mr. Barton, it seems like you've gone too far again, she said. I think you disrespected the court and got sentenced to 30 days in the slammer. Julia, who was there out of the blue, jumped in and begged the judge, no, Your Honor, please think again, she pleaded. I withdraw my objections to Jan's divorce request, please him. But when Judge Caldwell said, it's too late, dear, he's going to jail, I couldn't help but feel furious. Saliva practically dripped out of my mouth when she said those words. When she started talking, I was like, okay, I'm taking control here. So I got up and told the judge, hey, I want to say something. The judge gave me a dirty look and said, you can't talk to me like that, you have a lawyer. But I was feeling bold, so I turned to Jacob and told him straight up, you're fired, I'm handling this myself now. I walked up to the judge with newfound confidence, ready to defend my side. Even Julia's lawyer was on board. The judge asked, what's the problem, Mr. Barton? Hey, can we have a quick chat in your office to sort this out once and for all? I think if we meet, we can come to an agreement that works for everyone. The judge said okay and the lawyers will be here in 10 minutes. I'm gonna take a quick break. When we met in the judge's office, I asked for the meeting to be off the record. The judge hesitated, but I jumped in before she could say anything. I have a feeling that you and Julia's lawyer don't want to talk about certain things in front of everyone, so I'm asking again for this to be kept off the record. I suggested this to her, and she gave me a long look before nodding and telling the court stenographer to leave the room. Very politely, Mr. Barton, finish your statement. Let's hear him out, she said. First and foremost, Your Honor, I don't want anyone to get hurt during this whole thing. Please believe me, I think there was a violation of court rules here. I don't want that for you. I don't want to get hurt and have my career messed up. Also, I don't want Julia's parents to split up or for Julia to be offended in any way. Even though I don't have feelings for her anymore and don't want to marry her, I still don't want her to be devastated. It's pretty clear that there's proof of your relationship with Julia's dad, so you should back out of this situation. The evidence is solid and obvious, but I can provide it and testify if needed. I'd rather not go down this path. I want to give this evidence to the court, but I'm not sure. I don't want to hurt anyone involved, especially Julia. She'll be devastated and I'm not sure if your marriage can handle it. All I want is to get the divorce done without causing more pain. I asked Julia's lawyer for his opinion. What do you think? He looked at Judge Caldwell and said, Your Honor, I've always respected your commitment to justice. Some marriages can be fixed, you know. You were pretty strong in some situations. Sorry for being straight up, but I get where you're coming from. If Mr. Barton's story is true, I'll be bummed to hear you cheated and didn't handle it like him. I don't want any bad vibes for you. I think you should give him a divorce. Then he turns to me and says, "All I'm asking is for you to talk things out with Julia and hear her side. You told the counselor your heart is shattered, and I get it. Hey, your pain is important to acknowledge, but remember that she's hurting too. Just give her a few minutes of your time. If you're okay with the divorce, let's keep it between us." Julia's lawyer said that when we went back to court, the divorce was finalized and we split our stuff 50-50ths. We each kept our investment accounts and got half of our savings. The current account will pay the bills until the divorce is official, then Julia will take over. Keep the house and live there forever with no strings attached. If we sell it, we split the money 50-50ths. The judge changed the sentence from 30 days in jail to a $500 fine, which I paid right away. Julia needed to save face, so I agreed to meet her in a room near the courtroom. She said sorry again and admitted she was confused about what she did. She promised to see a therapist until she figured things out. I could see how she was acting even though she kept asking for forgiveness and saying she loved me. But honestly, I wasn't feeling the same way about her anymore. I gave her a hug before I left the room and I could hear her crying all the way down the hall. For the next 6 weeks, I was busy working on this new security program that was almost ready to be added to Adam and Ben's system. Then, about a week before my trip to Cleveland, Julia called me with some news. She told me she decided to sell her house and got an offer for $555,000. Julia wanted to tell me everything before I left. Julia gave me the chance to buy the house before she accepted another offer. She was willing to sell it to me for $280,000 so I could beat out the competition. But I turned her down, saying I didn't really need the house. I told her to go ahead with the sale and send my cut of the money to my lawyer. "You'll handle all the paperwork and transfer the funds to my account." Then I asked her why she was selling. She said she was moving to a new city for a job and needed a fresh start in life. She found out about her dad in court, and even though she knows I don't want to cause harm to anyone, it still upsets her. I wished her good luck with her new job and said goodbye. 2 weeks later, the deal was done. When I started at Adam and Greg's company, I had my security software ready to test and set up. Adam gave me a big hug, excited about the new system and eager to start working right away. He introduced me to the secretary, John, and then Julia. I was so confused when I saw Adam, so I asked him what the deal was. He just smiled and told me that Julia is the new boss around here. "You know how skilled she is, so I'm sure you'll have no problem working with her to set up the new security system," Adam said. Even though I was surprised at first, I told him that I needed a computer to finish up some stuff for the day. "I'll help Julia out a bit, but my main priority is getting that security package ready to go." So, it was super crucial for the computer to have internet access for the implementation. After I chilled out, I gotta admit that the day was pretty chill. I've always looked up to Julia for being so smart and funny. She was her usual witty, gorgeous, hilarious self. It was a nice day hanging out with my best friend, wife, and lover. Julia's attempts to be close to me, talk to me, and sneakily touch me didn't go unnoticed. I couldn't help but feel the effects of her actions. I just kept missing her more and more as the day went on. At 5:30 p.m. we said our goodbyes with a heavy heart, promising to see each other tomorrow. She left, and as I sat in my hotel room, I pondered my next move. Finally, I made a bold decision. I opened my laptop and skillfully hacked into the company's computer system. It's pretty typical for programmers to create a backdoor just in case. I was able to get into the personnel documents and found Julia's address. I then went to the liquor store, grabbed a bottle of her favorite wine, and headed to her apartment. So, when the doorman asked me why I was there, I confidently said I was there to see Julia. I told him I was there to see Julia Barton, but she wasn't aware I was coming. He tried to call her apartment, but she must have been out to dinner. I asked if I could wait for her, and he pointed me to a small break room by the lobby. Finally, Julia showed up with some guy who hugged and kissed her as they headed to the elevator. Suddenly, the doorman noticed me and went up to them to talk to Julia. As I was walking towards them, Julia waved at me and started begging, "Oh my God, no, please, no, no, no." The same old story began again. "I always manage to ruin your dates, Julia," I said, feeling a bit sorry. "I'm sorry I crashed the party, but deep down you're happy I'm here," I added, handing the guy the bottle of wine. "Have a good evening," I said as I headed out. But as I was leaving, Julia chased after me, begging, "Johnny, please don't go, please don't leave me hanging." I kept walking back to the hotel and immediately sent a message. I sent Julia an email about seeing her in Adam's office. It hit me that she must have quit her job, sold her place, moved to Cleveland, and joined Ben and Adam's team just to be near me. It might sound cocky, but it felt like she wanted to reconnect and maybe get back together. I think Greg might have tipped her off about where I am and what I'm working on. It doesn't surprise me, but I don't appreciate it when he does stuff like that. "Man, you always be all up in my business, but I gotta say, I was genuinely happy to see you. I gotta admit, I've been missing our friendship. Hanging out with you today brought back some good memories and left me feeling content. I didn't want our chat to end, so I decided on the spot to grab a bottle of wine and keep the party going outside the office. I needed a minute to collect my thoughts, but I was shook when I saw you with some other dude. I was all kinds of confused and unsure. It just didn't add up that you were with someone else. You're trying to reconnect with me, but you were already seeing someone else while you were in Cleveland. This leaves me with two options: either you're not really interested in getting back together, or there's something else going on that I don't know about. Whether you want to be with me or date other guys, I'm done with this. I was doubting my decision to divorce you, but your actions are making me sure it was the right call. Hey, so I just wanted to say that it really sucks to see how fake you were being with your concern. It's clear as day that you only care about yourself. I hope you actually find some happiness and satisfaction in the future. Please don't even think about trying to reconnect with me, it seems like you don't even want me around anyways. Best of luck to you, Julia. Oh, and I also sent you another email with instructions on how to install the software and activate the security program. You'll need a 2-word password to open the file though. Hey, remember that security system we talked about last time at Spire? It's pretty simple, just need those 2 passwords. If you can't remember them, maybe Adam can help you out. Those passwords are crucial to getting into the system. I might have been a bit childish, but whatever. Every time you log in, just think about how you snubbed our marriage. I uploaded the package onto the server, now all you gotta do is follow the instructions, activate it, and set up some extra access codes. Hey, if you need passwords for other users, it's all in the instructions. If you have any issues later on, just email Greg and he'll hook you up with the team that helped me with the program. I won't be working there anymore, so good luck. I finished the letter. Men who have left a deceitful spouse may find a younger, more attractive, smart, and interesting partner. This new partner might be more open to intimacy and stay faithful forever. I thought I found a woman like that. Julia cheated on me, but that wasn't the only problem. I felt super down after leaving my job at Group System Solutions, even though I was still making bank from the royalties Greg was bringing in from selling security packages. Money didn't matter to me anymore, my self-esteem was in the gutter, and I was feeling insecure, which was totally out of character for me since I've always been pretty confident. I knew I had to do something about it, so I started seeing a therapist. Once I started therapy a few times, I started feeling more like my old self. I kept going to therapy, but not with Dr. Graham, and slowly started feeling like I was getting back on track. I started dating again, but nothing serious came out of it. Once my finances were sorted and my life got better, I decided to just accept things as they were and not rush into falling in love again. It had been 5 years since I last saw Julia, and I didn't want anything to do with her. I ended up marrying a wonderful woman who had 2 sons, and my daughter Adam recently filled me in on how things are with Julia. She's totally head over heels for her new hubby, but things ain't all sunshine and rainbows. Her man Nick is a total party animal who likes to bring home random girls from the club. Julie tried to confront him about it, but it didn't go anywhere. Even her godfather Greg and her rich dad couldn't help her out. They just told her to be patient because Nick's dad has the upper hand. Poor Julia's life is a mess. Turned into a total nightmare when her husband started hooking up with other women right after they got married, and she couldn't do anything about it. When I found out, I couldn't help but smirk. Julia had it coming, karma's a real thing. In another story, as I pulled into our garage, I felt super anxious. I knew I was gonna be late and Jim would be worried. I started rehearsing my excuse in my head, trying to make it sound legit before facing him. I never intended to live a crazy life, but shit happens. A few months later, I realized I was totally hooked on the passion my lover brought out in me, even though I love my husband Samuel. His hold on me was just too strong, and I couldn't resist. I tried to break it off with him, but I just couldn't do it. He's so charming and knows exactly how to manipulate me, making me ignore my own values and choices every time. If Jim ever finds out about this, he's gonna be really pissed. I just hope that if things get really bad, I can convince him not to leave me and forgive me. I came up with a plan for this situation. That's how desperate I've become during my 6-month affair. I changed and did everything possible to avoid getting caught. Jim, my dear husband, I was always scared that he would discover the truth and kick me out of his life and our home. But I was sure he wouldn't spill my secret. I tried to be intimate with him whenever he showed interest, even when I didn't feel like it, because my feelings for him were so strong. I do love him, sometimes. Sometimes I feel guilty and wish I could leave. Going back in time to prevent myself from hooking up with Sam, I suddenly remembered that I sprayed on Jim's favorite perfume before heading to work in the morning. Luckily, I managed to dodge any suspicion by lying about accidentally spilling cleaning solution on myself while looking for tissues in the closet at work. Jim bought my story, and after a quick glance around, I left. When I got home, I stopped at the front door and scanned the neighborhood for Jim's truck. To my surprise, it was nowhere to be seen. So our neighbor's car was parked on the street instead of in our driveway like usual. I knew something was off, cause he always parks in our spot. I peeked out the window and saw Giselle checking herself out in the rearview mirror. I had a rough day and her being late just made it worse. This was starting to happen a lot, not just a one-time thing. I wouldn't care if she was really where she said she was, but the truth was something else. This has been going on for months now and I can't ignore it anymore. I've tried a bunch of ways to win her back, but she's not interested in patching things up with me even though she knows about her affair. I decided to keep quiet about it and hoped she would end it herself so we could work things out. I tried the usual stuff like dinners, movies, and gifts, but I also got creative and made her a unique trinket. One Friday, I surprised her by picking her up from work and taking her on a romantic weekend trip out of town. She just did her own thing, ignoring me when I tried to bring up our relationship. The weekend I spent in the city started with her yelling at me, but by the end I thought we had made some progress. The next week proved me wrong though, and I started getting frustrated and criticizing her for working too much. This just made her even more angry. Our closeness started to fade, happening less and less until it became uncommon. What used to happen all the time, several times a week and at least 3 times on weekends, is now rare. It's been a week and a half now. It's been like half a year since we last got close and 2 weeks since we had any romance. Even though I know the situation, she doesn't seem to realize that we are lacking intimacy. I found out about her cheating on me 5 months ago, but she managed to dodge my questions and give me some weak excuses about why she showers at work. She had no clue I was watching her that day, and she knew damn well why she was showering and not doing any work stuff afterwards. When I found out the truth, it shattered my heart, but my feelings for her are still there. I still had strong feelings for her and wanted her back. She was the one I saw myself having kids with, the one who stole my heart from the get-go. The next steps didn't seem too hard. I didn't dwell on how she'd react to me leaving. I just pictured her getting cozy with her lover, probably laughing at me. They've been fooling around behind my back this whole time. How could a husband compete with a lover who doesn't have to do any of the usual wife duties? How could a husband ignore his wife cheating on him? Man, I messed up big time trying to win back my girl. I tried everything, but it just didn't work out. Tonight, I gotta break the news to her that I gotta leave town ASAP. I know I've used this excuse before, but this time it's for real. She's probably gonna wonder why I didn't meet her in person. Well, if I did, she would have just felt bad for getting caught. I caught her red-handed, but not because she was planning to leave me. I was hoping to get her back without facing the fact that she betrayed me. Why I know, I thought it would show how much she cared about me, but now I see my whole plan backfired. She had no clue that all my stuff was already packed up in a moving truck, my bank account split, I quit my job and got a new offer from a buddy on the other side of the country. I even made sure to cancel my phone plan and pay off any debts just to avoid her calls in the future. When my old phone was about to die, I felt like a weight had been lifted off my shoulders and my savings started looking up. Transitioning to my new job savings plan and keeping my retirement fund safe, even though leaving the job had mixed feelings. I was close with my coworkers and enjoyed the work, so it was tough to say goodbye to them, the boss and the clients. After a lot of thinking, I made a hard decision that Giselle completely disregarded. She was too busy reading her novel to even realize she was pushing me away, or maybe she just didn't care. But in the end, it didn't really matter anymore. The divorce papers are gonna be dropped off to Giselle next Friday, when she'll either be at work or with her lover. You might be wondering, am I really gonna leave her? Well, yeah. Dealing with her cheating is just too damn painful. Now that we are actually doing something about it, she's gonna regret what she did. I was afraid of having to beg and plead for her forgiveness. I didn't want to come off as desperate, like some pathetic beggar begging for just a little bit of love. All I wanted was for her to realize how much I loved her. I wanted her to realize what a huge mistake she made by leaving me for another guy. I tried everything, but she still chose him over me. I knew he wasn't right for her, and he didn't treat her with the love and respect she deserved. I just hoped she would see his true colors and regret leaving me. I knew it would hit her hard when the divorce papers were served. She's gonna see she messed up by dumping me, and when that hits her, I hope she comes crawling back to me, begging for forgiveness. I've been calling her every night like I always do, hoping she won't figure out I'm using the motel phone instead of my cell. I figured she wouldn't even notice because she's always too caught up to have a decent chat with me. I just couldn't figure out what she wanted from me, I was clueless. I couldn't figure out why she cheated on me and kept it going. I wasn't sure how she really felt about me, but it was obvious she didn't love me like I loved her. If she truly cared about me, she wouldn't have been messing around with some other guy for months. I tried everything to win her back, but she was set on staying with him. In the end, I had to accept that I lost and he won. I was disappointed and pissed off, so I started. I was just bullshitting to cover up my feelings when Giselle showed up at the door. I quickly ducked into the kitchen and grabbed a cold beer to try and chill out my racing thoughts. I really needed something to distract me. It was crucial not to mess up my plan right now. After talking to the lawyer, I knew what the court would need for our divorce. I had a feeling Giselle would be relieved to hear the news. It seems like she's already checked out of our relationship. I'm pretty sure about that. Once the divorce papers are done next week, she's gonna ask her boyfriend to move in with her. I was getting ready for the changes by trying to close the doors of the cupboards and drawers. If she took a quick look, she wouldn't have noticed the emptiness in my closet and dresser. I briefly wondered how she would feel if she found out about the emptiness. Would she even care? How would she react if she saw that the only clothes left were the ones she gave me? When she came into the house, she hugged me tight. I gave her a smile and let her kiss me on the cheek, a move that's been happening a lot lately. She didn't bring it up before, and she didn't mention it today. It's been over 2 weeks since we were last intimate. She didn't seem to notice the lack of intimacy between us, too caught up in the passion she must be getting from her other lover. "How's your day?" I asked, pretending to care about her well-being but really just acting like a loving husband she can depend on. "Everything's fine," she said, not really concerned about me. Why, I know, it was pretty darn obvious that she was faking it when she asked if something was up. Her response was automatic, like, "Yeah, gotta go to work again, be gone for a week starting tomorrow morning." I was watching her closely for any reaction, and when she started to smile, I saw her quickly switch to a more serious look. "Oh honey, you have to leave tomorrow," she said with anxiety in her voice. But despite her words, her eyes gave away the truth. She thought I was really gonna leave, and it was clear she was actually kinda happy about it, maybe even looking forward to it. "Looking forward to hanging out with my boo this week, it's gonna be a long one. Work's done and now I gotta keep an eye on the construction site." I told her about it and was relieved that she didn't get mad like she used to. She just accepted it without a fuss. It was a nice change from her long-winded explanations she's been giving me for months. made me think something fishy was going on. Her excuses were getting too specific, raising some red flags. One day I had to head to work and she didn't even protest. First, I thought it was weird, but then I discovered she was cheating and everything made sense. We had dinner, chilled in front of the TV, she in her usual armchair, me on the couch. I kept hoping she would change her mind at the last minute and stop me from going down the path I had chosen. But after a couple of hours it was clear that was just wishful thinking. Reality hit me hard, we had lost everything. She sat there, ignoring me, never looking at me once. I felt totally ignored by her as she just chilled out watching TV. I could tell her mind was all wrapped up in her boyfriend and their upcoming week. If only she knew I'd be disappearing tomorrow. As I sat there, watching her glued to the TV, the weight of my choice weighed on me. She's clueless that I'm gonna have a whole week with them. We can crash at my place or his and we'll have plenty of alone time. Every night, he'll ask me out for dinner and dancing. I probably shouldn't, but Jim's. I'm so pumped for my upcoming vacation. Sam will be out of the picture and I'll have all the time for myself. It's gonna be awesome. My plans for the last week just got even better. Can't wait for next week when Jim gets back home. Finally, I can stop thinking about Sam and focus on my relationship with Jim. Everything will fall into place. Last night, I tried to get cozy with Jim, but he was already snoring away. He's been working hard for months, but I couldn't help but wonder why we haven't been intimate. I've been with this guy for a while now, and suddenly I had this scary thought that maybe he's cheating on me with someone else. I started freaking out, thinking maybe he found out about my own cheating and is getting back at me. But as I watched him sleep, I couldn't see any signs of that. I was pretty sure he loved me. But then I started doubting myself and wondering why I'm still with Sam. He's always giving me attention, taking me out dancing, being sweet in bed, and even reminding me of Jim with his moans. But it's the little things Sam does that make me question everything. I was drawn to him because Jim really liked me, and it was obvious in our private moments. I like the contrast with Sam. We have a passionate connection that satisfies me in more ways than one. He not only takes care of my physical needs but also supports me emotionally. I love our nights together, whether we're eating out or dancing until dawn. Sam is always attentive and caring, and when I'm with him, I feel like the most special woman in the world. When we go back to his place or hotel room, I just want to show him how thankful I am. Hey, so, I really enjoyed the time we spent together, but I can't shake the feeling that me and Jim are growing apart. Maybe it's time to call it quits on this intense affair. I'm scared he'll find out about me cheating and leave me or even hurt Sam or something worse. Lately, Jim has been making an effort to be a good husband, which has me worried. Could he know about my affair and be trying to one-up my lover? I try to push that thought out of my head immediately. If he finds out the truth, I know he'll freak out and might put Sam in danger. It worries me that I might have to bail Jim out if he acts stupidly. I wasn't sure how Jim would handle it if he found out about me cheating, but I knew he'd dump me right away. This week marks the end of my relationship with Sam, even though I really like them. I realized it's time to prioritize my spouse and our plans to start a family. When I woke up alone in bed this morning, I felt nervous and scared. I convinced myself that Jim would probably bounce without saying bye to avoid waking me up. My sweet husband Jim took care of me, seeing how tired I was, and offered to let me sleep in. Even though his call that night was great, it couldn't compare to the fact that he was right there with me at home. After talking to him, I found out that Sam was on his way over that night. I had plans to go on a date with Sam and would probably end up at either his place or mine. I always had my phone with me. Jim kept calling me out on it all the time, even though he seemed busy. I could tell his mind was on work. When he had to leave town, he was always focused on work and didn't have much time to think about being away from me. It worked out for both of us though. I knew he had to put work first. I was ready for Sam to come when he knocked on the door. I left the garage door open so he could drive in and come inside. I was but naked on the kitchen counter, waiting for Terrace to show up at his back door. This time, I wasn't all nervous because I knew exactly what was gonna happen once he walked in and saw me. When he finally showed up and said, "Giselle, you here," with his powerful, commanding voice, I couldn't help but feel a spark inside me. The look in his eyes when he saw me spoke volumes and lit a fire in me, getting me even more excited. "Sam, I'm really excited to see you. Can we take care of some business before we grab dinner and hit the dance floor? I can tell I really need it." I could hear the desire in my voice as I spoke, and it was clear that I had caught his interest. "Giselle, you're absolutely stunning," he said with a hint of desire in his words. His hands were gently undoing the buttons on his shirt, his lips were moist with longing, and the yearning in his eyes was obvious. That's one of the reasons I've let this affair go on for so long. Meanwhile, Jim hadn't even noticed. I haven't felt that kind of passion from someone in a while. He always used to disrespect me. Sam was laughing at how arrogant I was. With Jim, I could never be as free as I was with Sam. There was something about Sam that made me feel at ease enough to join in on his teasing. We even took a shower together before going out to dinner. Even though I didn't like Sam, I kept reminding myself that this was our last week together. But still, he managed to bring out a wild and reckless side of me that I had never thought about before. I didn't even think about the consequences of my actions. I was so caught up in the moment with Sam at dinner, feeling the excitement and forbidden pleasure. We were in a dark corner booth, and he couldn't keep his hands off me. After dinner, he took me to a fancy club for dancing, his hands on my back pulling me in closer. I could feel the heat between us, igniting a fire inside me. All thoughts of regret or consequences were gone, replaced by a primal desire. The music was blasting and I was totally into it as we danced on the floor. I got caught up in the crazy energy around us. I was completely lost in the fun of the moment, even though we were playing a risky game. I didn't care at that moment, I was just enjoying the thrill of dancing. Sam had his hands on my back and I couldn't help but wonder what Jim would think if he saw this intimate moment. But as Sam's moves became more obvious, my thoughts of my husband quickly faded away. I noticed that many women nearby were watching us closely. Sam and I got some jealous stares, but a few folks were straight up judging us. Anyway, after we got home, Sam and I had some amazing sex 3 times in a row. My phone rang right after, so I had to quiet Sam down and answer it. It was me, letting them know I'd be home late. My partner asked about my trip, and I tried to keep the convo going so he wouldn't get suspicious. "Hey, it's getting late, so I'm hitting the sack now. Let's catch up tomorrow, love you. Good night, babe." My husband said his goodbyes to me while Sam was distracting me while I was on the phone with Jim. I missed his sweet comments about love because Sam was speeding things up. I was lost in the moment with Sam, feeling his expertise taking over my thoughts for the rest of the night. It was a whole new experience for me, feeling sexy as Sam made love to me while I was still chatting with Jim on the phone. The next week flew by. Swift and Sam were hanging out at my place every evening. We'd usually have some hot and heavy action during the day before heading out for dinner. After wearing ourselves out with all that intimacy, we'd pass out until it was time to wake up and start the day. As I lay there, I felt a twinge of guilt, being a married woman committed to someone who wasn't my husband. The excitement I was feeling was like a drug, stirring up a fiery passion in me all week. But deep down, I knew Friday would mark the end of our forbidden fling. I made the decision to cut things off with Sam and take a break for the weekend. I had to meet up with Jim to say sorry for cheating on him and make sure he knew how much I still cared about him. I got to my new place early in the evening, speeding a bit to put some distance between me and the mess of my failed marriage. Terry, an old buddy, and his wife have built a successful business through lots of effort. He's been bugging me a lot, trying to get me to join their team by sharing ideas through messages and calls. So, at my wedding, my best buddy who's been with me since high school carried the coffin at my dad's funeral. His wife, Pam, is a strong woman with a lot of confidence. It made me wish my wife, Giselle, had Pam's loyalty and love. Pam always showed so much love to her husband, Terry, and their commitment never wavered. Unlike them, I haven't seen that spark in my wife's eyes for at least 6 months. In my new job, I'll be doing programming, which I'm good at. My skills in this industry have been proven time and time again. After I graduated from college, big companies like Microsoft and Sunday were interested in me. My master's thesis was all about a programming project I was really passionate about and had been working on for a while. When it was almost done, I decided to share the idea with Terry, which eventually got me connected with Terry and Pam's company. I'm hoping to make some serious money for the first time in my life now that my divorce is all settled. I've been spending the last few months carefully planning every detail to make sure everything goes smoothly. Get rid of Giselle at the right time. She doesn't deserve to be part of my plan or get the success she was promised. I put up with her cheating for too long, but now the results of my hard work have come in. It hit me hard, with a mix of sadness, anger, and hopelessness flooding over me. I couldn't help but question why I was never good enough, and I didn't want to hear any more excuses or justifications from her. Our deal was done by morning. So on Monday morning I showed up at my new job and was pleasantly surprised by how nice everyone was. Terry introduced me to the crew, which was made up of 14 people who were all super friendly and positive. There were 3 dudes and 11 ladies, not counting Terry, Pam, and me. Even though there wasn't really a need for a hero, they treated me like I was some sort of savior ready to save the day. I was grateful for their help in getting my new place set up after the chaos of moving. It felt good to finally have a place to call my own as I settled into my new gig. Moving into my new place, I noticed that I was really focused on my work. The activities kept me busy and distracted me from thinking about Giselle. I was determined to move forward without getting stuck in the past. Despite my busy schedule, I was grateful for Terry and Pam's support and help. The move went much smoother than I thought it would. As I finished unpacking, I felt comfortable. My new home was like a safe haven where I could start fresh and leave the past behind. I was excited to start this new chapter. I couldn't believe my luck when I ended up at a 3-bedroom house to see what would happen. It had all the things I could have wanted, and on top of that, I didn't have to pay rent. I just had to crash at a motel for one night before moving in. Surprisingly, I felt right at home. My new neighbors, Pam and Terry, were super welcoming and even invited me over for dinner twice that week. They could tell right away that things weren't easy for me. Pam took on the role of a caring mother figure, always looking out for me and trying to help with any problems I had. I ran into Terry and I could tell she was really watching me closely. She's a special one, always looking out for me and taking care of me. She even tried to ask me out. Terry and I put in a lot of effort to try to calm her down, but I wasn't looking for any new relationships at that time. I was in the process of finalizing my divorce and needed some time to focus on myself and figure out what I really wanted in life. Dating wasn't a priority for me in the near future. Then on Thursday, my lawyer called to let me know we would be dropping off some documents to Giselle's workplace. The next day everything was sorted out and the baith would bring the papers to her in person. My lawyer also mentioned that she had some interesting DVDs from the previous week that might be helpful to me. It seems like Giselle and her lover are up to something shady. But no matter what was coming, I knew I could trust my lawyer to deal with it effectively. She was a top-notch lawyer, well known for her expertise and success in the city and state. Her confidence reassured me and I felt like I was in good hands. I was stoked to hear her news the next night. Other lawyers straight up freaked out when they heard her name mentioned as the opposing lawyer in court battles. She was a real shark, a force to be reckoned with. Her rep was unmatched, so it was like fate when I got her on my side. At first, Amanda, my lawyer, had doubts about me telling the truth about Giselle cheating on me and not wanting to work things out in our marriage. So, I found out about Amanda's sneaky boyfriend and convinced the guy to represent me. Amanda was adamant that I hire her as my lawyer. Turns out, this dude Sam has been breaking up marriages left and right, but somehow manages to dodge any consequences for cheating. Amanda was itching to call out Sam, who was so charming that even the devil would seem boring next to him. It became obvious that Sam not only messed with people's lives, but also pushed them to do riskier stuff, leading to some serious consequences in the end. He basically used women to make more money for his business, pay off debts, and offer more services. I knew Giselle hadn't seen that side of him yet, but I was sure she would eventually if she kept hanging out with him. I also knew Jael would end up regretting getting involved with him. Sadly, by the time she figures it out, it'll be too late for me to help her. Sam was always going after women who were vulnerable because of their looks, confidence, or behavior. He was just playing them, trying to charm them and make them fall for him before using them for his own gain. He's definitely smooth, no doubt about it. Amanda was determined to show him a thing or two, and it seemed like my marriage would be his downfall. As the week went on, I kept in touch with Giselle every night, but by Thursday I couldn't keep up the act any longer. I knew this would be my last call to her, I could feel it. She said she'd hit me up the next day after she got served. Luckily my old phone wouldn't be working by then. Jim rang me on Thursday and seemed down. I've been feeling guilty all week while hanging out with Sam. I've been contemplating how to break it off, but it shouldn't have even gotten to that point. On Thursday I felt a sense of emptiness. Although I couldn't pinpoint what was bothering me, I just had a feeling that something was off in my life, like a gut feeling, a constant sense of unease that I couldn't shake. Couldn't ignore the fact that things felt different between us. Jim seemed distant and kind of relieved when we talked, but there was definitely tension in the air. He called, but it felt like he was waiting for me to do all the talking. When we said goodbye, he was cold and final. Looking back, I realize I should have fought to keep him around. I should have said sorry and not let him go on that trip. They say hindsight is 20/20, and now I see how true that is. I pushed my worries aside and hung up, feeling, "Hey Sam, just letting you know our hangout time was almost over. I had to get stuff sorted before my partner came back in a couple of days. I needed to make sure there were no signs of you on me." That night, the phone call kept me busy and eventually I fell asleep. It was Friday, I was at work, and right before lunch, everything suddenly shifted. I heard a man in a badly fitting dark brown suit call out my name. He had a serious look on his face as he walked towards me. "Giselle Hartman, what's up?" She asked what's up, how can I help you, and he quickly replied, "You've been sued." My world fell apart. I had no clue what I was being sued for, but I knew something was seriously messed up. He turned and bolted in a panic, not even looking at the envelope he gave me. I rang up Jim. He's always good at getting out of sticky situations. I trusted my husband to sort this out for me. I tried calling him, but no luck. When I tried to speed dial Jim on my phone, I got a scary message saying his phone number wasn't working anymore, so I got worried. I checked the phone book and called it myself, hoping it was just a problem with the phone company. But I got the same message again, and I started to feel really scared. I got chills and started feeling anxious. In a moment of panic, I decided to call Jim's boss, Steve Sedgwick, or Steve. "I can't reach Jim, do you know where he's staying?" "Hey Giselle, Steve here. Just wanted to let you know that Jim is no longer working here. His last day was last Friday. He found another job and moved on." When Jim's boss told me, I was shocked. I couldn't believe it. I was sitting at my desk, feeling lost and unsure of what to do next. I felt embarrassed that I didn't even know what was going on with Jim, and that his own wife was clueless too. The stupid brown envelope was staring at me like a snake about to strike in front of all these nosy people. When I finally got the guts to open it, I saw the awful results of my betrayal. I lost the love of my life, my husband. I pushed him away with a dumb affair that can never compare to what I had with Jim. It was a brief moment of pleasure that ended up costing me everything. I should have just let him stay by my side these past 6 months. I don't even know how long I sat at the table crying my eyes out. So, one of my coworkers finally caught me and dragged me to the bathroom. I was crying as I spilled the beans to Mary about what happened. At first, she was pissed off at my husband for being a total jerk. But when I explained my side of the story and why he left, her anger turned on me. "Are you out of your mind?" she yelled. "Giselle, this guy worshipped the ground you walked on. He was head over heels for you. And you let him go. You must be crazy to let a great catch like Jim slip through your fingers like that. What were you thinking? Man, your lover really messed up by hooking up with Jim, that idiot. I feel bad for you, girl. I never thought Jim would find out. I was just looking to have a good time," I said bitterly. But husbands always figure it out. They can tell when something's off. Cheaters always get caught eventually. It usually starts with little things, like ignoring your husband in small ways while your lover makes you feel wanted and sexy. Before you know it, you're totally wrapped up in the affair, not even realizing how much it's hurting you. Your husband Giselle knew all along that something was up, but you were so caught up in your lies that you didn't even notice. Mary was like, "Oh my God, have I lost him?" I was crying, thinking maybe I did, maybe there's still a chance. Mary was like, "You gotta talk to him, he needs closure. He's gonna need it." Maybe you have a shot at getting his forgiveness, even if you can't forget what you did. Mary was like, today he served me with divorce papers, it's done. He's been acting strange all week and now he's not even picking up my calls. I think I've lost him. He wouldn't have just up and quit his job and everything else if he hadn't left me. Why didn't I see this coming? Why did I keep seeing Sam? Oh God, I've messed up my life, my marriage, everything. I cried again. You will definitely get through this, Giselle, trust me. I know you can. Mary said. Why are you so sure? I asked. Because I've been in your shoes, facing the same struggles. I had a tumultuous relationship too, my partner dumped me and it caused chaos. I went through a lot of pain, but I kept going, Mary said. Have you cheated on your spouse too? She asked, shocked. Yeah, I didn't even realize I was acting different towards my husband until it was too late. That's the danger of cheating. At first, you try to cover it up, you start acting weird, all because you're scared of your husband finding out. Eventually, you start feeling confident that you can fool him. But that fake sense of security makes you forget about it. Feeling guilty and starting to be more loving towards your husband, you start to question his manhood because he still hasn't caught on to your cheating. Then it hits you that he might have known all along. One day, he confronts you with proof, leaving you in complete shock. Just like that, the truth comes out and you can't help but wonder how he found out about your affair. My lover and I even made a DVD together. Our lawyers went head-to-head in a tough divorce battle. I begged my husband. Husband said he'd give me another shot, promised to change, and I poured my heart out to him, telling him how much I love him. But it was all for nothing. The divorce happened and I lost everything that meant the world to me, my husband and his unconditional love for me, his beloved queen. I messed up our once perfect love, making forgiveness impossible, even for myself. If I were him, I wouldn't be able to forgive myself either. Mary finished her story with a heavy heart. Oh my God, he's gone, I started to complain again. Now I'm all alone, feeling lost. The situation just sucks. Hey Giselle, things might not look too good right now, but if you try hard, you might be able to get him to forgive you. He really cared about you a lot and everyone knows it. If you really put in some effort, you might be able to change his attitude towards you. Mary kept on reassuring, I don't know where he is now. He quit his job and moved out last week. No one knows where he is. He could be anywhere in the world. I replied, we'll find him eventually. He'll have to come back here, even if it's just to get his stuff. Mary suggested we should file for divorce soon, before it's too late to fix things. I told her to reach out to Jim's lawyer and ask him to get in touch with her ASAP. He might not give away his location, but if he calls, we can trace his number to track him down, she said. And what if he doesn't get back to us? She asked. There are plenty of ways to find someone these days, Giselle. We'll track him down, no doubt, Mary replied. She tried to stay positive, but deep down, she was worried that Jim had left for a reason. Probably because they are getting divorced soon, Mary understood why Jim didn't want to talk to his soon-to-be ex-wife. She knew he was worried about looking weak and didn't want to entertain any thoughts of getting back together. Mary had been through something similar with her husband, who felt ashamed for letting his cheating wife control him into having a difficult conversation about their relationship. Mary could relate to Jim better than anyone else, having experienced firsthand the challenges of a failing marriage. Mary was heartbroken when her ex betrayed her and decided to divorce. She tried to convince him not to go through with it, but he was stubborn and walked out on her. It's been over 2 years since their divorce was finalized and neither of them has remarried. Mary is still hurting from the breakup and she's sure her ex hasn't even thought about dating again. Having gone through a tough divorce herself, Mary was determined to help her friend Giselle cope with her own grief. She knew firsthand how devastating it was to be served with divorce papers and she could relate to Giselle's pain. Giselle was going through a tough time and needed Mary's help more than she thought. Mary was there for her friend, ready to support her no matter what. She knew it would take time for Giselle to heal, but she was determined to help her get through this rough patch in her life. I had been working for a few weeks when my lawyer, Amanda, called to tell me that Giselle wanted to talk. She didn't want to sign anything and was dead set on saving her marriage. I didn't understand why she was fighting it, especially since she already had the guy. I got the feeling that she was really upset when I found out the truth, dumped her, and filed for divorce. I might not agree with what you did, Jim, but I get why you did it. She said she's going to fight dragging this out until it gets too expensive with lawyer fees. I think we should talk to her and convince her to drop the case. Maybe she'll realize how serious this is and decide to move on. Is she ready to talk now? No, I've been trying to get her to talk for months. So, I tried for months to bring back the love and desire I used to have for her, and now she wants to talk. I'm sorry, but I'm really pissed off about it. Ash reacted strongly. So what now? She asked me if I heard the great news yet Sammy Gel's ex-boyfriend is in trouble. He tried to worm his way back into her life after she dumped him for good. The police got involved and he was caught in the end. Turns out, there were other ladies who knew about his antics. So, Jim, it looks like someone's been gossiping about your behavior and making complaints. Guess who? Yep, it's you, Jim. Let's change the topic, Amanda. As a court representative, you should know better. I never accused you, Amanda, but now I see the truth. Don't worry, I'll keep your secret. I hope that troublemaker gets what's coming to him. I agree, we both want justice. All right, I'll set up a meeting for you to see Giselle at Charo Bar next Saturday afternoon. She's been there before. How are you, Jim? Hey, what's up? She asked. It still hurts, but my new job is helping, I replied. Thanks for handling everything, Amanda, I thanked her. Jim, you're a good guy. I appreciate how you tried to deal with the situation before it got too crazy. It sucks that Gel didn't realize it sooner, Amanda responded. Our talk didn't go well. Jim straight up refused to consider making up. He made it clear that I had messed up any chance of fixing things. There was no way to get back what I lost. He thought our marriage was screwed and wanted to move on. Eventually, I had to admit that our marriage was over. I had no choice but to admit defeat when I heard his words and saw how determined he was. I realized I messed up big time. I couldn't convince him otherwise. If I had noticed the signs earlier, maybe we could have saved our relationship. But now it seems impossible. The hardest part of all this is my love for him. Solid and lasting, I just didn't realize how much I cared until it was too late. He got a new job, left, and I was left feeling like he wouldn't come back. It's hard to accept that I've been living in a much more destructive way for much longer. My heart feels heavy with emptiness, my love is gone. He's facing jail time, my husband is no more. He's about to be my ex-husband, all that's left in our marriage is to file for divorce. I am. Hey, I'm still young and have the chance to start fresh, but time is ticking and soon I'll be in a tough spot to settle down and have a family. I couldn't make it work with my first husband, even though I really loved him. I messed up by cheating on him, but I made it clear to everyone that they were wrong about me. Today, I'm gonna officially sign the divorce papers. It's the start of the end, the final nail in the coffin. The whole process felt cold and formal. After that, I hit the gym to clear my head. Since I started my new job and moved to a different city, my life has changed a lot. Giselle is no longer in the picture. With my new job keeping me busy all the time, I haven't had a chance to look back on the past. Even though it felt empty at first, I'm starting to see the positive side of things. My IT program is doing better than I expected and our company is making great progress because of our hard work. I just moved into a fantastic house and I hope to settle in soon. There are some exciting opportunities on the horizon. I've been thinking about dating again even though I'm a bit wary of new people. I'm looking forward to finding someone amazing after getting over a bad situation. I'm sure this person won't be anything like my ex, Giselle, which is a good thing. I'm starting to accept what happened and I know that eventually I won't even think about her anymore. It's been about 4 months. Yo, it's been years since I started living the single life and Amanda hit me up recently all hyped. She told me she's taken on a case of some dude who got played by his wife, who turns out to be Giselle. Amanda said this dude's planning to leave Giselle high and dry after the divorce, no money or nothing. I thanked her for the update but I really couldn't care less about what's going on with Giselle. After saying bye to Amanda, it hit me that Giselle So, I messed up big time and it's gonna mess things up big time. Karen invited me to Story 3 at the Tumbleweed Hotel and I was feeling a mix of nerves and excitement. It was a quiet time and I knew this wasn't just a regular hangout. This place was special to us because it's where we first met 13 years ago. I had a bad feeling and my suspicions were confirmed when I noticed some shady signs, like her working late at her boss's office where she's his secretary. It was clear something fishy was going on in our relationship. She didn't seem interested in being close with me anymore. I noticed she had some sexy new clothes in her closet that she never wore around me. But the worst part was how she barely talked to me, even when we were eating together. We hardly spoke and she hardly ever came home to eat with me and our kids, Max and Megan. Her ignoring me hurt, but what really got to me was how she treated her own kids. She basically ignored them and left me to take care of them while she did her own thing. After I parked the car in an almost empty parking lot, I decided to stay chill during the meeting. I thought she was gonna be honest based on a chat I overheard a couple nights back. It was Tuesday afternoon at 3 p.m. and she had managed to get me here successfully. As I sat in the car, I thought maybe she was with the person I had my doubts about. I recalled my dad's advice from years ago that has helped me in my career: don't make a move unless you're certain. Don't say a word. Let your opponent figure it out on their own. The less you say, the more they'll start stressing. And if they ain't stressing, they'll be exposed. My pops gave me this advice and it stuck with me. He warned me to stay quiet and observant, to keep my thoughts and feelings in check. By doing that, I could get the upper hand and plan my next move strategically. I thanked my old man for his wisdom, knowing he had my back. After saying a quick prayer, I jumped into action. So I was at the pub and saw Karen with some random dude I didn't know. Not gonna lie, I've been so busy with my company, Steinbeck Incorporated, that I haven't had much time to socialize at her office. As an electrical engineer, my company focuses on designing electrical wiring and systems for construction companies. I walked up to them and she finally noticed me. "Hey Mark," she said. So, this dude just straight up came up to me and was all serious, like, "What's up, Mr. Steinbeck, or should I call you Mark?" And then he dropped a bomb on me, saying that he's been banging my wife for a while now. She apparently got tired of sneaking around and lying, so he convinced her to spill the beans. But hey, I had it all recorded on my dictaphone, so I was ready for this show *T. Let's see how they handle it. Bro, I didn't say anything when Karen asked me, cause I didn't want to piss off my dad with some stupid comment. She was just staring at me waiting for a response, but I stayed silent. Maybe she thought I was in shock or something. She was telling me how hard it was to keep this secret from you. She doesn't want to hurt you or ditch you. But she also can't give up her bond with Jason. She said she couldn't keep it hidden any longer and that you deserve to know. I wasn't sure if she got it though. Man, her reasoning was so ridiculous. It was like a light bulb went off in my head. Karen, despite not finishing college for some obvious reasons, wasn't as smart as I thought. And when it came to the military stuff, she just left me hanging without any more info. So I walked over to the end of the bar, where the bartender pretended not to listen but couldn't help it. I ordered a draft beer, which he gave me while slyly sipping one himself. I just sat there watching them both stare at me, trying to figure out what they were thinking. Man, I was so confused after I finished my beer and left. I could feel everyone staring at me as I walked out. It felt nice for the first time in ages. I thought maybe I had the upper hand, but it could have just been in my head. Anyway, I went straight home where the kids were waiting for me. I greeted them with kisses, laughter, and promised them a fun weekend. They were excited and started digging into some ice cream while I talked to them about my plans. I had already set up for you to stay with Aunt Susan and Uncle Doug for the weekend, my sister. And my brother and his wife absolutely loved Max and Megan because they couldn't have kids of their own. So Max and Megan became their absolute favorite people in the whole world. I heard Stu and Doug were going camping for the weekend and now the kids are going with them. This gave me the chance to get some stuff done. "Is everything all right?" Mark asked Doug. Doug was always good at predicting things. "To be honest, not really, Mel," I replied. "Along with the divorce and Karen, the kids don't know yet." Doug's response caught me off guard. "What do you mean?" Just. I noticed a few things which he explained in person last Christmas. Karen actually paid attention to me. I refused her and she tried to play it off as a joke, but it didn't fool me. He made me promise not to tell you. I apologize for not telling you sooner. It's all right, I reassured him. I'm just grateful you agreed to look after the kids for a few days. I need time to work things out. Listen, Mark, if you need anything, please let me know, Doug offered. Thank you, Doug. I will keep you updated. Keep that in mind, but I think I can handle it. It's gonna be messy, but I have proof and they are not innocent, so I should be able to bring them to justice. I told them that once I leave here, I'll go to Henry and start taking action. Despite being old, Henry Morgan turned out to be a great lawyer for my crew. He was still as hilarious as ever and knew everyone in the courts and all the top lawyers in the state, not to mention the city. Karen couldn't help but wonder what I would do next. I caught her cheating and I should have known she would try to cover her tracks. She thought that making a deal with a friend to be intimate would stop me from freaking out if I found out. Those reasons were totally wrong, but the more I thought about it, the more they seemed like the only explanation. She was worried I would find out and surprise her, but that's exactly what I planned to do. Yep, Henry, that's the deal, I said, showing up at his house out of the blue. Yo, I handed him the recording pretending to be the bartender who saw my wife acting sus with her side piece just hours ago. Henry confirmed he'll serve them both on Monday. He asked if I'm heading home, and I said yeah, but I don't want to tip her off too early. I'll kick her out as soon as he tells me they've been served. Malcolm said he's gonna interview the witness and make him sign an affidavit the next day, even though it was a Sunday. Malcolm was all about speed in training, he wanted to hit hard and fast to leave opponents shocked and beaten. I really vibed with Malcolm's thinking and thanked Henry for his help. I also apologized for my messed up marriage and how it's affecting Max and Megan. As I walked away, I knew Malcolm, the ex-ranger, and Henry, the badass lawyer, would steer me in the right direction. My plan was to retreat and not make things worse. I told Henry to reject whatever my soon-to-be ex-wife throws at us. I knew that if Henry saw the recordings of her actions, he would have the upper hand in court. On my way home, I had full faith in Henry's judgment and believed everything he said. I started feeling hopeful and thought this weekend might be the last before my divorce was official. But when I got home, I saw a strange car parked in my driveway. I instantly knew it was Jason's car. As it got dark, I wondered if I'd be lucky enough to catch him. I saw some signs that they were cheating, so I parked a couple houses down and snuck up to the house hoping no one would see me. The lights were off, and as I got closer, I saw my neighbor Rex, who's still a cop, taking out the trash. I stood next to a random car so Rex could see me, and he waved to me. I knew he saw the suspicious car, so I made a mental note of the license plate number for evidence. Hey, make sure you send that to Henry along with Rex's name and address if you can. I was also hoping to get some pics as proof. So, I went out to the backyard, pretending to take out the trash while Rex went back inside. I saw my chance and sneakily snapped some pics through the sliding glass doors. Thank goodness for smartphones these days, right? Managed to get about 10 shots of Jason and my soon-to-be ex-wife doing some personal stuff. Put my phone down and went back inside the house. I walked in through the sliding glass door, letting them know I was there, but they just kept on with their rude behavior, showing no respect at all. I was fuming, but I kept my cool and waited for the right moment. About 15 minutes later, I heard the front door open and close downstairs, then Jason's car engine revved as he drove off. After a few minutes, I went back downstairs to the kitchen. As I passed the bathroom, I heard the shower running. I made myself a cup of coffee and waited patiently. It was going to be a long day. Wow, that chat was interesting. 10 minutes later, she came over and asked me if I was okay, sounding all caring and sweet. I didn't say anything, just took a sip of my coffee and waited for her to say something important. It bothered me that she didn't even ask about the kids. The person in front of me wasn't the same woman I married over 10 years ago. Hey Mark, we need to talk about the kids. They are currently staying with my sister. I think you should know, I finally spoke up. What? Oh, really? When I got back home, I noticed they weren't there, she replied, looking surprised. Yo, she looked clueless and all stressed out. She was like, "Hey, are you okay?" And then she started stuttering, I just wanted to be real with you. I didn't want to keep sneaking around with him." "You deserve better than that, Mark. Jason's whole world is just about physical stuff, you know. All about the physical intimacy. But don't worry, I won't hold back on anything when we're together. And he's cool with it, he's actually a good guy. He was the one who suggested we stop hiding things from you." "I couldn't resist, I had to come clean," she said, sounding all regretful. "So I can bang my own wife, Jason doesn't care." "Well damn, that was really nice of him," I said sarcastically. "Don't be sarcastic, Mark. Honesty is always the best policy," she said, as if cheating on your spouse was an exception to the rule. I couldn't help but smile. "Mark, just say something," she demanded. "What do you want me to say? Would you call him if I told you to do it right now?" I asked, daring her. When she didn't respond, I continued, "Then I have nothing else to say but yeah, you. You know what? I definitely deserve better," I said, trying not to laugh. I kept my cool and acted unfazed. She told me, "You're not a cuckold or whatever you think you are. You're my husband, a great dad, and I love you." She begged me, "Please, just let it go, Karen." I told her, "I'm outta here, don't wait up for me." I was just hoping to get her out of my sight. She was dead to me. Monday was supposed to be the end of it all, and she would have been history. I headed back and ended up back at Tumbleweed. When I sat down at the end of the bar, it was the same old scene. So I was at this bar, right? It was packed, especially on a Tuesday night. I ordered beer and decided to chat up the bartender. I asked him what the deal was around here, and he just nodded towards the corner where Jason was. The lighting was dim, but I could see Jason going at it with some girl, making out like crazy. Turns out, he was cheating on his girlfriend with another girl. I wasn't shocked, to be honest. Maybe the other girl knew about his wandering eye. I overheard some gossip about it today. I can vouch if necessary, thanks. Maybe I will. I told my wife once tried pulling a similar stunt a few years back, but I had no one to back me up and ended up having a tough time in court. At least I managed to keep this place, which is something. I really don't want to have to fork over half my income in alimony. We talked for a solid 4 hours straight. I made a mental note to talk to Henry about helping this person get justice if he helps me expose Romeo and Juliet. Weaklings should stick together. Jason never saw me in the bar. I managed to snap some awesome pics of him and his partner. I was planning to use them as proof if my wife really thought she was alone with him. But I'll have to hold off until the big event on Monday. I got back home around 4 a.m. Josh, the bartender, and I had a few cups of coffee after closing since he lived above the bar and had nowhere else to go. I guess I was the perfect person for a late-night chat. I really liked the guy and he was a top-notch bartender, which was a major plus in my book. I was pretty bummed out. So I was hanging out with Karen, but I really just wanted to crash in my own bed instead of the guest room. There's just something about a guy's own bed, why I know. My wife gets that about me, which is why she decided to get frisky in the living room instead of upstairs. I crawled into bed next to her and she was awake. I felt her hand trying to grab mine, but I quickly pulled away and rolled onto my back. Looks like she did the same thing. I woke up to the sun shining through the window curtains. It was like 8 o'clock in the morning. I woke up to the smell of bacon sizzling in the kitchen. I got myself ready, showered, dressed, and went downstairs. She seemed happy, thinking everything was okay or that our marriage was salvageable. "Good morning, Sonia," she said cheerfully. "It smells amazing." And it did. I was starving. Today might be the end of our marriage, but I tried not to dwell on it. Tomorrow will be a mess, but today will be a good day. "I have a feeling I'll be by your side all day," she said, as if it was a special treat. Because I was being rational, and if you play your cards right, you might just get lucky, she said with a laugh. I didn't know whether to laugh or be disgusted. How could my cheating wife think I would just go along with what she was suggesting? I smiled back and said, "I have to take my car to the shop this morning to get new brakes. Maybe we can chat later." It was going to be hard to avoid, but I was determined. As I was driving and applying the brakes, I discreetly placed a recorder next to the kitchen phone. I had a feeling she would use that phone to call him, and I was right. The whole situation was so intriguing. 3 hours later, I got back home and grabbed the recorder while she was taking out the trash. I went to my office to listen to the recording, and it really hurt me to hear her say she loved him, especially when I knew he didn't give a damn about her. I couldn't wait to show her the old photos I had received the night before. It was definitely going to shake her up. Sitting in my office, I had mixed feelings, and it hit me that I had made a stupid decision getting married. I felt ashamed and started to question if it was even worth divorcing her, considering how irresponsible she was for her actions. The nerve of her and her man made it impossible to make up, and don't even get me started on the kids. It was clear she didn't give a damn about them, which was just unforgivable. The next morning, I left the house before she even opened her eyes. Monday marked the beginning of the end for her and her man. I kicked off my day by telling my secretary Elizabeth that I wouldn't be home for the rest of the day. Being the boss had its perks. First thing I did was head to Henry's office, where he had some news about his side hustle. Malcolm, the detective, found out some juicy info about Romeo. Turns out Romeo is actually married with 6 kids, and his wife, who's 10 years older, has some serious cash stashed away that she doesn't even know about. I told Henry to spill the beans on Romeo, gave him some recordings and pics from my phone. Henry grinned at that. Maybe I'll have a little something extra for him once all this drama dies down. I knew Sue and Duck would handle getting the kids ready for school. The idea of having to have a chat with seeing them together freaked me out, but it was bound to happen. Henry set it up so the lovebirds were escorted to their jobs. A restraining order was put in place for her, keeping her away from the house, and the same goes for him. The papers were supposed to be served right before lunch. I told Henry to make sure it was done in a big, dramatic way. I wanted those two to really feel the hurt later. I also made sure all the proof against the couple was given to Jason's wife, and it was up to her what she wanted to do with it. I really wanted to be there when my wife was getting served, but then I thought, why not just chill in the hallway? When the waiter finally showed up, he didn't know me and I didn't know him, so he just strolled right past me towards my wife's office. "Excuse me, are you Mrs. Karen Steinbeck?" he asked. "Yes, of course," she replied with a smile. I was peeping at her from the doorway, and at first she didn't even notice me because she was deep in convo with the server. He handed her a manila envelope and said, "You have been served." She was like, "Oh no," when she saw the letter in her hand. Her face went pale, tears started flowing, and she just sat down in shock. Right then, her boss came out of the office, saw her distress, and tried to calm her down. I was there too, and she saw me, eyes wide open. "Mark, why didn't I listen to you? I deserve better," she said before leaving. Later, I found out that Jason was in the same boat, his life all messed up. When it was all said and done, he passed out. In the end, he lost everything: a wife, kids, a house, a job. Turns out, Karen wasn't the biggest idiot in the world, just the second biggest. A few days later, I was sitting in Henry's office, having a hot drink. I asked him if he could still help, even though it's been a while since it all went down. He said yes, he thinks he can. This woman has a bunch of secrets stashed away and she's willing to renegotiate the divorce terms just to keep them quiet. We are gonna try to get Mark's alimony waived if we can. Haven't you figured out yet that I can pull off anything? He laughed. I'm improving, I responded, laughing along with him. Later that day, I sat at the Tumbleweed Bar and talked with my new buddy. You won't have to pay alimony anymore. I can't express how thankful I am for that, especially since she made such a big deal out of it back then. I'm happy I could assist, I said. After the divorce, Karen was left with nothing, but somehow she managed to hold on to it all. So, this chick was able to get away with her shit thanks to her boss being her sugar daddy. Jason is out of the picture now, and I saw Karen the day after the big event. I had something I wanted to give her, even though I knew I might have to deal with the cops. But hey, it was worth the risk. Mark, is there seriously no way out? What about the kids? I knew she would pull this card and try to guilt-trip me, but I shut that down real quick. You haven't given a damn about the kids for months, Karen. Your new man has your full attention now. Hey, listen up, Mark. He's a great guy, just like you. That's why I was drawn to him right away. He loves me too, and we both tried so hard to make you see that. We did it for you, hoping you'd be open and honest. But now you've gone and ruined everything for all of us, even the kids. How could you? I started crying again. She really made me mad this time, blaming me for everything. I was so mad, Mark. But it's not too late. We still have a shot, if that's what you want. I need you to get it, Jason. You'll always be my top priority because you're the father of our kids. How could you even consider being with someone else? Jason is a stranger, he's not part of our family. I swear I'll make you happy if you just give me a chance. I was so mad, I couldn't even speak. It was dumb, idiotic, and pointless. She needed help, but someone else had to give it. She's not in my life anymore, Karen. I'm here today for 2 reasons. First of all, you can see the kids as much as you want, but you can't bring that guy around. I'll give you some cash to find a new spot to crash, but after that, you're on your own. Just know, if you try to fight the divorce, I'll fight back hard. Karen, you have no clue what I can do. Can you tell? She looked at me, clearly wishing I'd take her back without a fuss. Still dealing with this idiot like I told her she needed therapy. And that's it, I slid the folder over to her. Check out the dates on the bottom of the photos. These are pics of Jason with his side chick that I snapped last Saturday night. She looked at them, but they are from last week. You weren't his main squeeze. I never was either. He's a player. Have a good life, I said as I stood up, left a $20 tip for the waitress and bounced. The building she was in was crying tears of despair. Thanks for tuning into today's stories. If you liked listening, smash that like button and subscribe if you haven't already. And don't forget to drop a comment below with your thoughts on what went down. Take care.